Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a concept that could genuinely shift your perspective on what reality even means. We're talking about something so fundamental, it really puts into question our basic assumptions about the universe, maybe even our own minds. Our source for this deep dive is a pretty unique text. It's titled No Particles, No Division, Non-Numbers.txt. And our mission really is to unpack its, well, radical claims and try to grasp what it means if the fabric of existence isn't what we usually think it is.
It's a singular idea, definitely provocative. It cuts across physics, mathematics, even touches on philosophy. It's essentially asking us, to reconsider reality right from the very bottom. We have to set aside some deep-seated ideas.
Okay, so let's jump right in then. The absolute core of this text, the central statement, is incredibly bold. It says, and I'm quoting this directly, there are no particles, no fields, no division, just changing space.
That's the absolute crux of it. You'll see it repeated. It's not just saying particles are like composite or something. It's saying they don't fundamentally exist as separate things at all.
Okay, whoa, no separate things.
Yeah, think of it less like a universe made of distinct building blocks, Legos, and more like maybe a vast dynamic ocean, continuously changing.
An ocean.
Right, and what we perceive as particles or fields, they aren't like fish swimming in the ocean. They're more like waves or currents or eddies that form and dissolve within the ocean's flow.
So temporary patterns, not actual things.
Exactly, just patterns in this overall flow. That's the really profound idea here.
Yeah.
Things might just be temporary appearances, not the fundamental reality.
Okay, that's a massive claim. If it's only this changing space, how do we explain the world we experience, the order, the predictability? How do we even measure anything? The source tackles this head on, doesn't it? It says, our tools, particles and fields in mathematics are, and this is another quote, fabrications of humans.
Precisely. And what's really striking is how it just completely, flat out rejects mathematics as fundamental to nature. It literally says, quote, there is nothing mathematical in nature. Infinity does not exist.
Nothing mathematical.
Nothing. All these concepts, it argues, are fabrications of the mind.
Okay, but that brings up a huge question, right? If math isn't inherent, if it's just something we made up, why does it work so unbelievably well? I mean, it describes the physical world with incredible accuracy. How does the source explain that?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The source doesn't explicitly give a why math works so well answer. Instead, it seems to imply that our minds, just by how they operate, create these structures, the particles, divisions, math, to make sense of a reality that's fundamentally, undivided and non-mathematical.
So it's like we impose order, like we're projecting a grid onto something that has no grid.
That's a good way to think about it, almost like we're wearing glasses that project these familiar patterns onto what's actually a seamless canvas.
And this view, it goes even deeper, doesn't it? It tackles our own minds. The source suggests the mind itself is a fabrication. And it explains that this sense of division we all experience, it seems to emerge with consciousness from this locally deformed, changing space. What does that mean, locally deformed?
Right. So, sticking with the ocean analogy, imagine in this vast, continuous ocean, certain areas might get really complex. They might ripple or swirl in a highly organized way, like a whirlpool forming in water.
Okay, a whirlpool.
Yeah, this local deformation, this whirlpool, isn't a separate thing added to the ocean. It's just a specific complex configuration of the ocean itself. The text proposes that consciousness and our resulting sense of a world split into distinct parts isn't some objective truth out there. It's an emergent property, a highly complex pattern that arises from these local deformations in space.
An emergent pattern.
Exactly. It challenges the whole idea of objective boundaries in reality, suggests they might depend entirely on the observer, on consciousness itself.
So if our perception of divisions, even our own consciousness, just emerges from this sort of localized complexity in space, it's almost like our entire experience of reality is just a temporary, complex ripple in this massive, unified ocean. Is that capturing it?
I think that's a very fair analogy for what the source is implying, yes.
Because that's, it's genuinely unsettling. It kind of undermines our basic sense of having an individual solid reality.
It definitely does. The source isn't really offering easy comfort here. It's a pretty stark view. And if your mind, your sense of you, is just an emergent pattern, that makes the source's next point, its critique of human nature, feel even sharper.
Right, and that leads us to this really pointed observation about human bias. It says, humans will do anything to uplift their own importance or existence and deny any downplaying. And it finds it, quote, amusing at best that we have the arrogance to think that our divisions must be true.
Yeah, this part really pushes you to think critically. How much do our own biases, our, deep need for meaning and significance actually shape the scientific frameworks we build? The source is suggesting that maybe our fundamental drive to categorize, to divide everything up, is more about puffing up our own importance than it is about finding some ultimate truth about how reality is. It forces us to ask, are our models reflecting reality itself? Or are they just reflections of human ways of thinking, maybe built more for our own psychological comfort?
That's a strong charge. Does the text give any clues about why humans might have developed this arrogance, as it calls it, or how it gets in the way of seeing things clearly?
It implies it comes from that need to feel central, to have a clear, defined role in the cosmos. If reality is just this seamless changing space, and our minds are just patterns within it, well, that really challenges the human desire for a special, distinct, self-important existence, doesn't it?
It certainly does.
So it's like a call for humility, a push to question whether our categories really map onto nature or if they just serve our own psychological needs.
And then to kind of wrap up this whole really mind-bending exploration, the source leaves us with this ultimate philosophical question. It just states simply, to be or not to be is still a relevant question.
And that really underscores the huge implications here. If our basic concepts, existence, division, particles, even our own minds, are potentially just fabrications, then the whole question of what it means to be, to exist, it just opens up a completely new, maybe even unsettling way.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what's left? Is being in the way we normally think about it even possible if reality is truly undivided at its core?
So where does this leave you, the listener? We've journeyed through a truly radical perspective today, one that proposes reality is simply changing space, and that all our familiar concepts, particles, fields, numbers, the divisions we perceive, maybe even consciousness itself, are entirely human constructs, emergent patterns.
Yeah, and this deep dive really challenges us. If these fundamental building blocks, particles, fields, numbers, are just human inventions, how should that change our science, our way of investigating the universe? What new possibilities might open up if we could genuinely let go of these ingrained ideas about division? And maybe the biggest question, what does this imply about your own mind and your place in a reality that might be far more unified, far more seamless than we ever dared to imagine?